Chapter 682. Daoist Xianzhu quickly said, "That's right." However, from what junior brother Xianxin said, senior brother Jiang seems to have fallen into a trap. The Azura and the Devil Cultivator. The number of Azura and the Devil Cultivator is definitely not small. How can we save senior brother Jiang? Lu Ping saw that Xianzhu Jinren had finally calmed down from his earlier panic and regained some of his rationality. But before Lu Ping could speak, Xianzhu Jinren's next sentence made him not know whether to laugh or cry. "Oh yes, there's a teleporter here that leads directly to the North Sea. Disciple Lu, quickly activate it and inform our sect's cultivators to come and rescue him." Lu Ping said helplessly, "Don't panic, Uncle Master. With Uncle Master Zhang's skills, unless he's facing a great Dharma adept or surrounded by several cultivators of the same level, even a mid-Dharma adept may not be able to stop him." Hearing Lu Ping's words, Xianzhu Jinren's agitated emotions finally calmed down. This Uncle Master made Lu Ping secretly sigh. Her status as one of the 4 female cultivators of the sect could not be compared to that of Master and Tianqin, and even Xianqin Jinren. Perhaps it was because she was too sheltered by a powerful master like Tian Shui Laozu. Lu Ping continued to explain, "Now that the teleporter has been activated, there's not enough time. Furthermore, outside the teleporter is the North Sea Demon Clan's camp outside Huanyu Island. 1 or 2 people might be able to escape detection, but once our sect mobilizes a large force, it will definitely alert the North Sea Demon Clan. At that time, not only will the teleporter be in danger, but the reinforcements from our sect will probably have to fight the demon cultivators first." Xianzhu Jinren let out a long breath and said, "Disciple Lu, you're right. It's me who lost my composure. No wonder Master always says that I'm weak and urges me to go out and train. I'll leave this matter to you, disciple nephew. I'll do my best to cooperate." This was not the time to be humble. Lu Ping nodded and said, "Uncle Master, please take care of the other 3 Uncle Masters. I'll go out and scout first. Perhaps Uncle Master Jiang has already fought his way out." Lu Ping walked along the bottom of the river for nearly 10 miles. His divine telekinesis had already captured the traces of the water Shura that he had seen before. Lu Ping put on the cloud-colored robe and turned into a stream of water, approaching the 7 or 8 water Shuras that were hovering in the water. These 7 or 8 water Azuras were led by a water Azura that was equivalent to a core forging stage water Azura. They seemed to be a water Azura team that was out patrolling. Lu Ping used his mind to summon a stream of undercurrents to surround the 8 water Azuras. By the time the core forging stage water Azura realized what was going on, the undercurrents had already wrapped around them. The water Shura in the core forging stage shrunk and elongated its body, and it managed to escape from Lu Ping's water manipulation spell. However, before it could escape, its eyes were suddenly filled with horror. Then, the Shura's head flew into the air, and a stream of clear blood gushed out from its neck. Lu Ping reached out his hand, and a weapon that was held by the water Shura fell off and flew towards Lu Ping's hand. The other 7 water Azuras in the blood condensation stage all had crazed expressions on their faces. They struggled with all their might, but they could not break the water surrounding them. However, blood gushed out of their chests like flowing water, and they died after struggling for a while. Lu Ping reached out his hand, and the netherwater sword suddenly appeared in Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping stepped forward and collected the weapons in the hands of the 7 water Azuras. These weapons were second-class mutated spiritual materials that had been roughly refined and polished into weapons. When used against enemies, they only relied on the hardness of the second-class spiritual materials. However, the weapon in the hands of the core forging stage water Azura was a genuine magic treasure. Lu Ping had read about Azuras in ancient books, and knew that Azuras had an innate ability to nurture magic treasures. When a Azura was born, it would choose a spiritual material as its companion weapon. As the Azura grew, the quality of the companion weapon would also increase. When the Azura became a Grand Azura in the blood condensation stage, the companion weapon would become at least a second-class mutated spiritual material. When the Azura became an Azura equivalent to the core forging stage, the companion weapon would also grow into a magic treasure. Once the Shura grew into a blood Shura that could shock the entire cultivation world, each of these Dharma stage experts would have a weapon that was equivalent to a spirit treasure. Often, when fighting against Dharma stage experts from the human clan or the demon clan, the blood Shura would use his companion weapon that was equivalent to a spirit treasure to beat the human clan or the demon clan of the same level until they could not lift their heads. Lu Ping put away these spiritual materials and magic treasures. These were a great harvest for any Jinling core forging stage cultivator. However, in Lu Ping's eyes, after the trip to Yingtian Dojo, these things were no longer enough to make Lu Ping feel the joy of harvest. The corpse of the water Azura killed by Lu Ping slowly dissolved in the Ying River. Other water Azuras, such as the wood Azuras, the earth Azuras, and the ice Azuras, would also turn into dead wood, rocks, and ice after death. Therefore, there was a saying in the cultivation world that Azuras were actually lifeforms formed from the essence of the 5 elements, wind, and ice. Although this legend had not been proven, many people in the cultivation world believed it. Although the 3 Laozu did not understand why Jiang Tianlin Laozu said this, the 3 of them had already seen Jiang Tianlin Laozu's strength. Since he had said to run, there was naturally a great danger coming. The 3 of them looked at Jiang Tianlin Laozu's anxious tone and felt a chill in their hearts. Unfortunately, it was too late. Just as the 4 of them were about to escape, there was a strange fluctuation in the space in front of the 4 of them. A small brilliance suddenly appeared, and the surrounding clouds condensed. When the brilliance stabbed in front of Tong Jian Laozu, it had already turned into a 3-foot-long water sword. Tong Jian Laozu let out a strange cry and said, "Water Azura." The copper sword in his hand drew a yellow light and slashed at the water sword that was close at hand. However, when Tong Jian Laozu's magic weapon slashed on the water sword, it passed through the water sword and only splashed a few water droplets. The water sword was still undamaged and stabbed at Tong Jian Laozu. Tong Jian Laozu's eyes widened and he shouted. He had to use his protective magical power to resist the water sword, but the water vapor in front of him suddenly condensed into a water mirror. The water sword pierced through the water mirror, but it appeared behind Tong Jian Laozu, allowing Tong Jian Laozu to escape. It's blood Azura, a Dharma stage blood Azura. Tong Jian Laozu did not have time to thank Smoke Scorpion Laozu, who was next to him, and he hurriedly shouted. The water sword flew forward for a distance, and a pale, almost transparent palm suddenly appeared in mid-air and grasped the water sword. At this moment, on the other side, Sanming Laozu suddenly shouted, and 3 lights suddenly appeared above his head. The lights hovered above Sanming Laozu's head, forming a simple 3-man formation. A cold wind suddenly blew, and Sanming Laozu shivered for no reason. He was even more frightened. The 3 lights above his head swayed. If Sanming Laozu had not tried his best to maintain it, it would have been blown out by the cold wind just now. Sanming Ancestor felt a chill run down his spine. His voice trembled as he said, "Feng Azura, Dharma form." A gust of cold wind swirled around a strand of qi, and a cyan silhouette flashed and disappeared. The ancestors of the 3 bright sects saw a mocking smile on the face of the cyan silhouette. Sanming, Tong Jian, and Smoke Scorpion quickly stood together, back to back, and looked at the blood Azura that surrounded them. Jiang Tianlin still stood on the other side, as if he was a stranger to the 3, but his eyes were fixed on the undulating black fog in the north of the mountain in the distance. Chapter 683. The 3 Dharma adepts Laozu were surrounded by 2 Dharma adepts blood Shura. This might sound unbelievable, but it was the truth. 3 oil lamps circled above Sanming Laozu's head. One of the 3 sparks on the wick was a heaven-level spiritual fire, while the other 2 were earth-level spiritual fires. Sanming Laozu had obtained another heaven-level spiritual fire in the Yingtian Dojo. He had planned to refine it on his oil lamps after returning to the North Sea, so that the power of his 3 natal oil lamps would increase by another level. Once his 3 natal oil lamps gathered 3 heaven-level spiritual fires, the power of the 3 lamps would be comparable to a spirit treasure. If that was the case, Sanming Laozu would not have a headache facing the omnipresent attacks of the spirit treasure in the hands of the Wind Shura. Compared to Sanming Laozu, Copper Sword Laozu was even more aggrieved. Copper Sword Laozu fought with great vigor. In the North Sea cultivation world, Copper Sword Laozu was known for his bravery. This time, when he was fighting with the water attribute Blood Shura, it was as if every move of the sword, which was full of power, hit empty air. The feeling of not being able to withstand the force made Copper Sword Laozu very uncomfortable. The water sword in the hands of the Blood Shura was even more unpredictable, making it difficult for Copper Sword Laozu to defend. If it were not for Smoky Laozu's help, Copper Sword Laozu's body would have been pierced through by this strange spirit treasure. At the same time, there was a shrill cry. Jiang Tianlin Laozu, who had been floating motionlessly in the air, suddenly tilted his head back. His face instantly turned pale, and half a mile in front of him, a wave of divine thoughts suddenly exploded in the void. In the distance, the undulating black fog behind the mountain suddenly shrank back, as if a person who was about to climb to the top of the mountain had suddenly slipped and fallen. Blood Shura, soul-devouring. Although Sanming Laozu and the other 2 Blood Shura were in full swing, Jiang Tianlin's strange state had worried them. Jiang Tianlin was the strongest among the 4. If something happened to him, the other 3 would not be spared. However, when the 3 saw the wave of divine thoughts exploding in the void not far away, and the shrill cry from behind the mountain peak, their faces became increasingly ugly. Jiang Tianlin had actually attracted the attention of a demon Shura. No wonder he had been standing still just now. It turned out that he had started a divine thoughts competition with the demon Shura. The most fundamental manifestation of devil cultivators' ability to devour souls lay in the fact that devil cultivators possessed an innate divine ability that allowed them to devour cultivators' divine sense. Furthermore, it was impossible to guard against this ability. Most cultivators would often use their divine sense to scan their surroundings in times of danger, and this was exactly what devil cultivators wanted. When the demon Shura devoured half of the demon Shura's divine thoughts, the demon Shura would lose control of the primordial chi in the body. If no measures were taken, the demon Shura would eventually die from chi deviation. At the same time that ancestor Jiang Tianlin sensed that there were Shuras lying in ambush around him, the Shuma also sensed that among the 4 of them, ancestor Jiang Tianlin had the most powerful divine sense. In the eyes of the Shuma, such a powerful divine sense was like an incomparably delicious dish. Naturally, the Shuma immediately targeted him. However, the demon Shura had still underestimated Jiang Tianlin Laozu. Although Jiang Tianlin Laozu was caught off guard and suffered a small loss under the demon Shura's sneak attack, he quickly realized the demon Shura's existence. A huge burst of divine thoughts caught the demon Shura off guard. The demon Shura's powers had been broken, and the immense pain caused the demon Shura to howl. Jiang Tianlin's divine thoughts also seemed to have suffered a heavy blow, and his face was as white as a sheet. Fortunately, after the demon Shura's powers were broken, his divine thoughts returned. Although he did not suffer much damage, there were many restrictions on using his divine thoughts again. This Dharma stage demon Shura had never suffered such a huge loss before. After being forced back by Jiang Tianlin, a black fog rose up from the back of the mountain. Its green eyes were like a hungry beast, and it rushed towards Jiang Tianlin Laozu with the black fog. The demon Shura was an existence that was more feared by adepts of the same level than the Shura. The Blood Shura had spirit herbs that made it difficult for adepts of the same level to defeat it, but at least they had a chance to escape. On the other hand, the demon Shura's ability to devour souls made it difficult for adepts of the same level to injure him. It was a good thing that Jiang Tianlin was no ordinary early Dharma adept. Although his remarkable techniques would not allow him to defeat demonic adepts of the same level as him, it would still be extremely difficult for demonic adepts to harm him. The man and the demon fought for more than 10 rounds, but neither of them could do anything to the other. Although the demon Shura would not rest until one of them was dead, Jiang Tianlin did not dare to relax at all. In a situation where the two of them were equal in strength, the competition was nothing more than patience. They were both looking for the other's small flaws, accumulating small victories to become big victories, and waiting for the other to reveal a flaw first. Jiang Tianlin and the demon Shura were evenly matched. Perhaps other adepts would marvel at Jiang Tianlin's strength, but to Tongjian Laozu and the other two, it was not a good sign. The Shura was good at all kinds of escape techniques, so each Shura was not only good at attacking, but was also a master of assassination for the adepts of the same level. The wind Shura came and went without a trace, and the air above Ing River was full of water vapor, so the water Shura was like a fish in water. The two blood Shura joined forces, and with the two strange spirit treasures in their hands, they suppressed Tongjian Laozu and the other two. This was especially so for Tongjian Laozu, who had a fiery temper and was used to fighting in a straightforward manner. He had never been harassed like this before. A wave of anger accumulated in his chest, and he became more and more irritable. However, Tongjian Laozu's irritation was seen by the two Shura. Finally, Tongjian Laozu caught a flaw of the water Shura, and he rushed toward the water Shura's body. Smoke bewitching Laozu, who was on the side, shouted, but it was too late to stop him. Tongjian Laozu smashed the water Shura into pieces with his sword, but he saw that another water Shura appeared next to him, looking at him with a mocking expression. The water sword, which had been separated by smoke bewitching Laozu's water mirror, also reappeared in the water Shura's hand. Tongjian Laozu was shocked, and he quickly flew backward. At the same time, the copper sword in his hand slashed at the water Shura again, but the water sword in the water Shura's hand disappeared again, and the water Shura once again turned into a sky full of clouds and disappeared when Tongjian Laozu's flying sword slashed at it. Behind him, smoke bewitching Laozu shouted, "Be careful behind you." Tongjian Laozu had goosebumps all over his body. His intuition, which had been tempered in countless life-and-death battles, made him realize the danger in an instant. Tongjian Laozu shouted, and suddenly, a blood mist burst out from his back. Before the blood mist dispersed, it turned into 18 blood swords and slashed behind him. A series of explosions rang out, and an unwilling roar rang out from behind him. Then, it disappeared. Smoke bewitching Laozu's voice sounded again from behind Tongjian Laozu, "Come back." Hearing smoke bewitching Laozu's shout, Tongjian Laozu paused and seemed to hesitate for a moment. Then, without looking at the situation behind him, he went straight back to Saming Laozu and smoke bewitching Laozu. "You were careless." Smoke bewitching Laozu didn't seem to notice Tongjian Laozu's momentary hesitation. Instead, Tongjian Laozu blamed himself. He coughed because he used the blood sword magical power. "I was rash. Thank you for reminding me in time." The 18 blood swords nurtured in the core space were obviously Tongjian Laozu's desperate ability. As soon as he used it, Tongjian Laozu's face looked pale. At the place where Tongjian Laozu's flying sword slashed, the water Shura condensed again. Its figure seemed a little illusory. Obviously, the 18 blood swords that Tongjian Laozu used just now did not just force the water Shura to retreat. The situation is not good. Smoke bewitching Laozu was the assistant of Sanming Laozu and Tongjian Laozu. Although she didn't directly participate in the battle with the two Shura, it was because of her assistance and support that they managed to maintain a balance with the two blood Shura. It was also because she didn't directly join the battle that she could see the formation of both sides more clearly. These two Asuras are obviously using their innate abilities to fight with the three of us, taking the opportunity to weaken our true essence and magic power. After our true essence is depleted, these two Asuras can rely on the spirit treasures in their hands to win. These two Asuras are very clever. Smoke bewitching Laozu's words seemed to have a hidden meaning, but Tongjian Laozu didn't listen to it. Instead, he looked at Jiang Tianlin Laozu, who was entangled with a black fog in the distance, and said worriedly, "It's a pity that martial nephew Jiang is entangled with a devil Shura. It seems that they are evenly matched." If we can't get rid of the entanglement of these two Shura, we will definitely be defeated by them one by one. The fire above Sanming Laozu's head soared, forming a three-colored ring of fire in the sky, blocking the spiritual treasure in Feng Shura's hand. The three oil lamps above Sanming Laozu's head flickered and were almost blown out by a gust of cold wind. Sanming Laozu's face flickered with the oil lamps. Taking advantage of the opportunity to catch his breath, Sanming Laozu sighed and said, "I don't know how the disciples we brought are now. I hope they have escaped from the encirclement of the Shura and Devil Shura." The three ancestral patriarchs scanned the area with their divine will. By now, they knew that there were still many core forging and blood condensation Asuras and demonic cultivators hiding nearby. They formed a circle from afar. However, because both sides were in the Dharma stage, these low-level Asuras and demonic cultivators couldn't interfere. Tong Jian Laozu and Yen Shou Laozu didn't say anything. Obviously, they knew that if their disciples were surrounded, they would most likely be dead. At this moment, a violent spatial vibration came from the direction of the battle between Jiang Tianlin and the Devil Shura. The divine senses of the two sides couldn't help but peep at the other side of the battlefield. They saw Jiang Tianlin Laozu suddenly use 108 natal magic treasures to form a huge myriadwood forest. In the sky above the myriadwood forest, a mirror that was like a full moon hung high in the sky. A green beam of light shot out from the mirror, nailing the Devil Shura in the air. At this time, Jiang Tianlin also used all his Jin Yuan to resist the struggling Devil Shura in the green light, but he couldn't find the time to launch the final attack on the Devil Shura. Chapter 684. Why was Yuan family known as the #1 family in Middle-earth? The identity of Peng Doran's direct descendant had granted Yuan family a noble status, and the unique Thunder bloodline power was indeed powerful. However, these were not enough for Yuan family to firmly occupy the title of the #1 family in the world of cultivation for tens of thousands of years. Yuan family's bloodline power was special, but the other bloodlines of Pengdaoran, such as the Kun fish and the Cloud Rock, the primitive crocodile and the green sea snake bloodlines of Jiao Daoran, the tyrant turtle bloodline of Priest Gui, the fire Luan and Wu Luan bloodlines of Luan Daoist, and so on, the quality of these bloodlines was not weaker than the Thunder bloodline of Yuan family. In terms of inherited powers, the Thunder bloodline of Yuan family was indeed marvelous, but the inherited powers of the 5 great sects in Middle-earth and the Crystal Palace of East Sea were not any weaker than the inherited powers of Yuan family. However, for tens of thousands of years, Yuan family had still firmly occupied the title of the #1 family. Whether it was the 6 great sects in the world of cultivation, or the direct bloodline of the 7th patriarch, among spirit creature cultivators, no one had ever come out to question or challenge the position of the #1 family in Yuan family. On the contrary, Yuan family had also enjoyed a high prestige among these great sects and powerful clans. What did they rely on? They relied on the unique Thunder bloodline of Yuan family, and the Thunder magic inherited from Pengdaoran. Thanks to these lightning-type abilities, the Yuan family had made great contributions to the cultivation world when the Shura and Xiao-mo cultivators had ravaged the world of cultivation in the past. Although the Yuan clan's lightning techniques weren't necessarily much stronger than the techniques inherited from the major clans, the Yuan clan's unique lightning attribute bloodline made the Yuan clan's lightning techniques the #1 lightning technique in the cultivation world. According to legends, Asura and Devil cultivators were formed from the origin of this world. Every few hundred, thousand, or even 2,000 or 3,000 years, they would appear in the cultivation world on a large scale to wreak havoc on the world. These strange creatures with innate abilities had an absolute advantage in battles between cultivators of the same level. And the only thing that could restrain them was the lightning technique. This was especially true for Devil cultivators. They were born to devour souls, so they were naturally restrained by all kinds of lightning techniques and divine abilities. Because of this, every time a great tribulation descended and the world of cultivation was plunged into a reign of terror, the Yuan clan's lightning technique, which could be said to be the #1 lightning technique in the cultivation world, became a decisive force to restrain Asura and Devil cultivators. A large sect might be several times stronger than the Yuan clan, but when a great tribulation descended, their role wouldn't even be half of the Yuan clan's. From this, it could be seen how important the Yuan clan was in the cultivation world. Moreover, the Yuan clan seemed to be very willing to contribute their strength in every great tribulation. Every time a great tribulation descended, the cultivators of the Yuan clan could always be seen at the forefront of the battle against Asura and Devil cultivators. And after every great tribulation, the Yuan clan's talents would wither and their strength would be greatly damaged. Because of this, the Yuan clan's status didn't only come from their strength, but also from their selfless dedication to the cultivation world when a great tribulation descended. The reason why the top 6 martial institutions were recognized by the cultivation world was probably because of their dominating power. However, the reason why the Yuan family was recognized by the cultivation world was not only because of their rich resources, noble bloodline, and powerful heritage, but also because of their benevolence and righteousness, which had saved them from the most dangerous situations. The Yuan clan's lightning technique had such a great effect in restraining Asura and Devil cultivators during the Great Tribulation. It wasn't that no one in the cultivation world wanted to obtain the lightning technique inheritance from the Yuan clan, but without exception, they all failed. It wasn't that they didn't obtain the Yuan clan's inheritance, but because they didn't have the lightning attribute bloodline of the Yuan clan, even if they could cultivate these lightning technique inheritance, they would always be weaker than the cultivators of the Yuan clan. The Yuan clan's bloodline was inherited from the head of the 7th patriarch, Peng Daoren. This lightning attribute bloodline was only possessed by the Peng bloodline of the 7th patriarch, and Peng Daoren only passed this bloodline to the Yuan clan. It wasn't that no one cultivated the lightning technique inheritance in the cultivation world. Aside from the Yuan clan, there were actually many lightning technique inheritance in the cultivation world. For example, Lu Ping's water attribute bloodline could also be used to cultivate the divine Kuei water lightning among the lightning technique inheritance. At the beginning, this kind of technique was called the lightning fall technique, lightning palm, and so on. However, the only thing that could really cause great damage to Blood Shura and Blood Demon in a battle of powers was the supreme lightning technique. In the face of this lightning technique, regardless of whether it was a devil cultivator, an Asura, or a spirit treasure in the Asura's possession, they would all suffer great damage. This was especially true for devil cultivators and Asura's spirit treasures. Needless to say, devil cultivators were naturally more restrained by the lightning technique than Asura. However, the accompanying magic treasures of Asura, although after Asura reached the Dharma stage of Blood Shura, their accompanying magic treasures would also be upgraded to the level of spirit treasures. However, these accompanying spirit treasures only had the power of spirit treasures, but had not been tempered by the thunder, so they did not have the spirituality of a real spirit treasure. Therefore, the accompanying spirit treasures of Asura were most restrained by the lightning technique, and even Asura were restrained by the lightning technique. To a large extent, this was because the accompanying magic treasures and accompanying spirit treasures of Asura would lose most of their power under the attack of the lightning technique, and even Asura's own strength would be suppressed by more than half. Therefore, during the battle between Jiang Tianlin and devil cultivators, after receiving a telepathic message from Lu Ping, who had snuck into the vicinity of the battle with the help of the stone armor and the 5 elements cloud robe, Jiang Tianlin and devil cultivators immediately used this method of mutual confinement, which seemed unwise to outsiders. This gave Lu Ping the opportunity to command the 7 treasures Thunder Calabash to use the Great Magic Thunder technique to directly hit the defenseless devil cultivator, causing great damage. The appearance of the Great Thunder technique not only severely injured the defenseless Blood Demon in one fell swoop, but also shocked the 2 Blood Asuras who were besieging the 3 ancestors. They hurriedly withdrew their symbiotic spiritual treasures that they used to attack. Having grown into Blood Shuras, they naturally knew the damage that the Great Magic Thunder technique could do to their accompanying spiritual treasures. Reinforcements had arrived. The eyes of Tong Jian Laozu and the other 2 lit up. This time, the 3 of them did not hesitate at all. Taking advantage of the moment when the two blood shuras withdrew their respective spiritual treasures, they rushed out of the pincer attack of the two practitioners and joined Jiang Tianlin and Laozu. Because Tong Jian and Laozu were protecting the two wings behind Sanming Laozu, who was at the front, without hesitation, the sparks from the 3 oil lamps above his head once again formed a 3-colored ring of fire. He threw it at the Blood Devil, who had been severely injured by the Great Magic Thunder technique. The Blood Devil, who had been severely injured by Lu Ping's 7 Treasures Thunder Calabash, also knew that it had reached the moment of life and death. The black fog that had been dispersed by Lu Ping gradually thickened again, wrapping its looming body again. However, Lu Ping, who was still hiding on the side, found that the thick fog around the Blood Devil had gradually been dyed with a layer of red. Just when Lu Ping secretly wondered if his blow had really seriously injured the Blood Devil, something suddenly happened to the Blood Devil, who was watching Sanming Laozu's 3-colored ring of fire that was about to descend. With a shrill roar, a brighter red fog suddenly gushed out of the pale red fog, turning the entire fog into a bright red blood fog. With the help of this blood fog, the dispirited state of the blood fog after being struck by the lightning seemed to suddenly recover to its original state. Under the double suppression of Jiang Tianlin Laozu's myriad woods encirclement and the abundant void mirror, the Blood Devil suddenly broke free and escaped from the Sanming Laozu's 3-colored ring of fire by a hair's breadth. However, under the burning of the Sanming Laozu's 3-colored ring of fire, the blood fog around the Blood Devil seemed to suddenly become flammable. It suddenly turned into a blood-red fireball, melting away most of the blood fog around the Blood Devil. The Blood Devil's body, which was hidden in the blood fog, was once again revealed. At this moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly appeared above the Blood Devil's head, silently falling in the direction where the Blood Devil was hiding. It had to be said that Lu Ping's grasp of timing was excellent, and the control of all this was due to Lu Ping's experience in life and death battles, as well as his tyrannical divine sense that was comparable to that of a Dharma manifestation stage cultivator. This Shoma was obviously not easy to deal with. Although it had been seriously injured, it still escaped Lu Ping's sneak attack. However, looking at the Shoma's barely dodging figure, Lu Ping knew that this Shoma was probably an arrow at the end of its flight. However, what Lu Ping did not know was that it was precisely because this Blood Devil had sensed Lu Ping's tyrannical divine sense that the Blood Devil had an illusion that there was still a Dharma manifestation stage cultivator hiding nearby, ready to attack at any time. Just as the Blood Devil broke free from Jiang Tianlin Laozu's imprisonment, Jiang Tianlin Laozu's mouth began to overflow with blood because the Forest of Trees spell had been broken. However, Jiang Tianlin Laozu knew that this was not the time to estimate his own injuries. Jiang Tianlin raised the 108 leaves again, and the Forest of Trees spell was reformed. Once again, it enveloped the Blood Devil. At the same time, the effulgent treasured mirror kept spinning above his head, ready to shoot out the light of imprisonment at any time. At this time, they no longer had the mood to chase after these earth asuras. Jiang Tianlin looked at Lu Ping and asked, "How did you find this place?" Lu Ping told him about the attack on spiritual master Xian Sen and the others. Jiang Tianlin Laozu's expression immediately changed, and he immediately wanted to return to the rocky cave. However, because of the other 3 Laozus, Jiang Tianlin could not tell them the secret of the rocky cave, so he could only pretend that he did not care. However, there was no need for Jiang Tianlin Laozu to say anything. After hearing that even the strongest core forging stage cultivator, Zhenling, had suffered such a great disaster, the other Laozus could not help but want to leave. It must be known that although the various sects had sent their core forging stage cultivators with the highest hopes of advancing to the Dharma phase, each of the core forging stage cultivators had been nurtured with great effort. If they were to fall, the losses would be small, but the Dharma phase cultivators would have no successors. Moreover, after the trip to Yingtian Dojo, each of the core forging stage cultivators had gained a lot. This kind of loss was not something the sects could bear. Tong Jian Laozu was the first to speak. "Martial nephew Jiang, the matter at Yingtian Dojo has come to an end. The Shura Shuras are wreaking havoc here, so we need to leave as soon as possible to prevent our disciples from getting into trouble. With Tong Jian Laozu taking the lead, Sanming Laozu and Smoky Laozu also said their goodbyes. Jiang Tianlin also knew that the three Laozus were anxious at the moment, so he said, I did not expect to encounter the Shura Shuras and the Shuras on the trip to Yingtian Dojo. Fortunately, everyone was out of danger, and I believe that the disciples of the various sects have also escaped from this disaster. It seems that the situation in Central Plains has really deteriorated. After the three of you call back your disciples, if there is no other private matter, it is best that you travel together and return to the North Sea together. This way, you will be safer. Presumably, because of the Shura's rampage, 3 Dharma phase adepts traveling together will not attract too much attention. However, after the 3 of you return to the North Sea, if you have time, please make a trip to Tianling Mountain. The 3 of them thought about it for a while and knew that Jiang Tianlin Laozu's words were the most appropriate, so they all nodded. Tong Jian Laozu asked straightforwardly, Martial Nephew Jiang, why don't you return to the North Sea with us? If the 4 of us travel together, our safety will be more guaranteed. Jiang Tianlin Laozu smiled helplessly and said, I still have a mission from the sect, so I'm afraid I will have to return a little later. Jiang Tianlin Laozu frowned and said, only 3 days? That's not enough time to return to Tianling Mountain to gather more people. Lu Ping smiled bitterly and said, actually, we only have 1 to 2 days. After all, I've never cultivated this kind of soul return elixir before. If I want to be confident, I'll have to make 2 batches of elixirs. If I spend 2 days, I can only hope that I can successfully cultivate the first batch of elixirs. Xian Zhuzhenren mumbled, what should we do? After Dongguo Laozu, Zhang Shi, and Lingyun Laozu broke out of the encirclement, they saw that Gu Chang Laozu, Changhe Laozu, and the rest had actually caught up to them again. Their faces turned pale with fright, and they did not have the time to think about what was the point of these people chasing after them anymore. With a flash of light, the 3 of them tried to escape again. However, before the 3 of them could escape, they saw 2 more streaks of light flying in their direction from the right. The 3 of them could not be more familiar with these 2 streaks of light. They were Feng Shutiao from Xian Ling sect and the Dharma adept from Fei Ling sect. When Feng Shutiao and Changhe Laozu saw Dongguo Laozu and the rest in front of them, a hint of joy appeared on their faces. The 2 streaks of light that had originally been flying past the 3 of them suddenly changed direction and landed in the direction of the 3 of them. Zhang Shi seemed to realize something, and he turned around to look at the Dharma adepts who were chasing after them. His eyes shone with a strange light, and it was obvious that he was also using some kind of eye technique. Uncle. Zhang Shi's expression changed, and he said in a low voice, these people don't look like they're chasing us. Instead, it looks like they're being chased. Dongguo Laozu's expression darkened, and he saw that Feng Shutiao and Changhe Laozu had already landed in front of the 3 of them. Without waiting for Dongguo Laozu to ask any questions, Feng Shutiao said anxiously, Mr. Dongguo, we can't go any further. A group of Asuras led by 3 blood Asuras and 2 blood demons is about to catch up to us. 3 blood Asuras and 2 blood demons. Feng Shutiao, are you sure? Dongguo Laozu's expression changed immediately, and his tone of voice was no longer as calm as before. Uncle, I'm afraid that what he said is true, and there's more to it than that. Dongguo Laozu looked in the direction that Zhang Shi was pointing in. Behind Gu Chang Laozu, Changhe Laozu, and the others, there were a few strange streaks of light flashing in quick succession. Chasing after Gu Chang Laozu and the others were 3 balls of black mist that shrank and shrank in size, emitting ear-piercing screeches as they flew. And behind these streaks of light that were obviously Dharma stage blood Asuras and blood demons, there were more than 10 streaks of light that were chasing after them. These streaks of light were obviously core forging stage Asuras, and within these streaks of light that were flying, thick black mist could be seen churning and churning. At this time, Gu Chang Laozu and the others had also noticed that Feng Xiutiao and the others, who had just escaped, were actually standing some distance away from them. A look of confusion flashed across Gu Chang Laozu and the others' faces, and they were immediately filled with a sense of foreboding. A pincer attack, and they were surrounded. Lu Ping instructed Xuanzhu Zhenren to guard the cave abode again, and he and Jiang Tianlin did not have time to rest, and they once again left the rocky cave abode. Lu Ping used the Cloud Glow 5 Elements robe to surround him and Jiang Tianlin Laozu, and the two of them instantly disappeared into the sky. After flying out of the ocean crossing boat, Lu Ping followed the mark that he had left on the blood demon that he had severely injured through the Seven Treasures Thunder Gourd, and flew in the direction that he had returned to. After a moment, Jiang Tianlin Laozu frowned slightly and said, "Why is the direction that we are heading towards the source of the Ying River? Could it be that after those Asuras retreated, they are also heading towards the Ying Tian dojo?" Lu Ping's face also darkened, and he did not speak. Along the way, the number of Asuras that appeared had suddenly increased, and as the two of them went deeper, the number of Asuras increased, and the cultivation of the Asuras also increased. Among them, there were even some late core forging stage Asuras, and there were even some late core forging stage Asuras whose will was not weaker than that of ordinary Dharma adepts. Lu Ping had to carefully use his will, which was also comparable to that of a Dharma adept, and the miraculous Cloud Glow 5 Elements robe, to avoid the attention of these Asuras and demon Asuras along the way, so as to avoid attracting the attention of even stronger Asuras and demon Asuras. At this moment, there was suddenly a continuous roar of spells in front of them. The two of them looked at each other, and Lu Ping nodded, a look of joy on his face. He said, "It's over there." Jiang Tianlin Laozu's slightly pale face smiled slightly, and he said, "Looks like our luck is not bad. Perhaps there is a chance that we can take advantage of." Chasing behind Gu Chang Laozu and the other Dharma adepts were 6 blood Asuras and 3 blood demons. In addition, there were also dozens of core forging stage Asuras and demon Asuras. As they flew, they formed a mysterious formation, and they secretly surrounded Gu Chang Laozu and the others from both sides. The dozens of core forging stage adepts that Ying He, Dao Yu, and Ying Shan had used to form a formation to ambush the various North Sea sects did not follow. Looking at Changhe Laozu and the others, who looked as if they had lost their parents, it was obvious that these adepts had been killed by the Shura army's sudden attack. Gu Chang Laozu was the first to land in front of the 5 North Sea Laozu. At this time, he had already seen the strange light that was chasing after Feng Xiutao and the others. It was the same light that the blood Asuras and blood demons were chasing after them. How could he not know that they had already been surrounded by the Shura and demon Asuras? Behind the Asuras that were flying towards them, there were also dozens of lights that spread out like stars in the sky, gradually forming a huge encirclement with the dozens of lights that were coming from behind them. "Let's not mess up our previous grievances. Let's face the enemy together, how about that?" Gu Chang Laozu made a prompt decision. Compared to the Shura and demon Asuras in front of them, the human adepts were clearly at a disadvantage, and there was clearly no reason for them to fight amongst themselves. That's how it should be. Dongguo Laozu was, after all, older than Feng Xiutao in terms of seniority. This time, Feng Xiutao did not object. Lu Ping led Jiang Tianlin and Laozu to a place where the battle was taking place, just within the range of his divine will. Here, with the cover of the 5 Elements cloudy robe, Lu Ping was not afraid of attracting the attention of the human Dharma adepts, the 11 blood Asuras, and the 5 blood demons, who were fully focused on the battle. Only Jiang Tianlin Laozu glanced at Lu Ping and raised his eyebrows. This distance was just within the range of his divine will, and the reason that Lu Ping had stopped here was obviously not because he had already understood the range of his divine will, but because there was an 80% chance that his divine will could also cover such a long distance. Jiang Tianlin was very clear about the level of his own divine will. Although he had not specifically trained his divine will could not be compared to that of the mid-Dharma adepts, but it was still considered quite good among the adepts of the same level. However, now that Lu Ping had stopped the boat here, this meant that this lad's divine will was not weaker than that of most Dharma adepts. On the contrary, it was very likely that it was slightly stronger. Originally, there were only 9 blood shuras and 4 blood demons surrounding Gu Chang Laozu and Dongguo Laozu. However, Gu Chang Laozu, Dongguo Laozu, and the rest combined forces to form a total of 13 Dharma adepts. Gu Chang Laozu was also a mid-Dharma adept, so the group of them combined forces to deal with the attacks of the Shuras and demonic Shuras. If not for the fact that there were close to 100 core forging stage Shuras and demonic Shuras forming a large formation and harassing them from all sides, perhaps Gu Chang Laozu and the rest would have already broken out of the encirclement. However, after a short period of time, the situation suddenly changed. 2 blood Shuras and 1 blood demon suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Although one of the blood demons looked to be in a bad condition and could only support the attacks of the other Shuras and demonic Shuras on the outside, with the addition of these 3 Dharma adepts, the situation took a turn for the worse for Gu Chang Laozu and the rest. With the spiritual treasures in their hands, the 13 Dharma adepts of the human race were immediately at a disadvantage. At this time, Yuan Lai from the Yuan family began to display the power of his thunder techniques in front of the many Shuras and demonic Shuras. All kinds of thunder techniques flickered in the sky with different colors of light, wreaking havoc on the surrounding Shuras and demonic Shuras, causing the surrounding Shuras and demonic Shuras to hide in fear. The Shuras and demonic Shuras that had previously surrounded the human race also gave up on attacking Yuan Lai. It could be said that no one was able to stop him. The Dharma adepts and demonic Shuras were able to dodge, but the core forging stage Shuras and demonic Shuras that had formed a large formation to help surround the human race cultivators were not so lucky. In the explosion of the thunder techniques, many core forging stage Shuras could not dodge in time and were turned to dust by the thunder, disappearing from the world. As for the core forging stage demonic Shuras that were struck by Yuan Lai's thunder, the black fog surrounding the demonic Shuras was like snow that had come into contact with boiling water, disappearing completely, revealing extremely handsome or extremely ferocious faces. However, these faces had one thing in common, and that was that they were pale, extremely sickly pale. If not for Yuan Lai's sudden outburst, with the addition of the 3 Dharma adepts, the 13 human Dharma adepts would most likely have collapsed long ago. Everyone, we only need to hold on for an hour. The old man has already sent out a jade talisman to request reinforcements. After an hour, the Gu family's Dharma adepts, as well as the sects that have Dharma adepts in the surrounding 10,000 miles of the Yingshan mountain range, will receive the news and rush over. At that time, we will be able to defeat this group of Shuras and escape. Gu Chang Laozu saw that everyone was struggling to hold on and could not help but speak up to encourage them. However, Dongguo Laozu, Feng Shutao, and the rest exchanged looks and remained silent, waiting for the reinforcements to arrive. They were not going to chase the wolves away from the front door and let the tigers in from the back. Just at that moment, something strange happened again. The heavily injured blood demon, who had been cruising in the periphery to coordinate with the other blood Asuras and blood demons in besieging the human race cultivators, had just flown to a spot in the air where he was temporarily separated from the core forging stage Asuras who had formed a large formation to assist in besieging these human race cultivators when a familiar yet terrifying green light suddenly appeared and nailed him in the air. Without waiting for the blood demon to struggle, the familiar myriad woods net wall immediately appeared and completely imprisoned the blood demon in midair. In the past, Jiang Tianlin and Laozu had been able to imprison the blood demon even when they were fighting face to face. Now, the severely injured blood demon was imprisoned even more tightly than before. Everything had happened extremely abruptly, and Jiang Tianlin and Laozu had concealed their presence extremely well. As a result, the other blood Shuras and blood demons were unable to react in time when the blood demon was pinned in midair by Jiang Tianlin and Laozu. How could the core forging stage Shuras and blood demons that were roaming around them break through Jiang Tianlin and Laozu's imprisonment? The imprisoned blood demon knew very well what was going to happen next. Before he was severely injured, he was unable to break through Jiang Tianlin and Laozu's imprisonment. Although Jiang Tianlin was also slightly injured now, his injuries were undoubtedly much lighter than the blood demon's. Hence, the blood demon did not have the strength to break through the imprisonment. At this moment, the blood demon could only place his last hope on the other blood demons and blood shuras who were not far away from him. However, the besieged human cultivators were all very astute. When they saw one of the blood fiends being ambushed, they instinctively assumed that reinforcements had arrived. Thus, their attacks intensified as they did everything they could to pin down the blood fiend before them so that the reinforcements could successfully kill off the blood fiend cultivator at the Dharma form stage. Only Dongguo Laozu, Feng Shutao, and the other North Sea cultivators hesitated for a moment when they saw the myriad woods net wall formed by 108 leaf treasures and the familiar green pillar of light. Then, they also began to attack their opponents with all their might. Although they could not figure out why Jiang Tianlin would help them, it was not the time for them to wonder. Perhaps they would break through the blood demon's blockade at this moment. However, what happened next gave Yuan Lai a slight shock. A bolt of purple lightning as thick as a water bucket descended from the sky and struck the head of the imprisoned blood demon in one fell swoop. An incomparably miserable howl rang out, piercing toward the divine sense of all the cultivators present like flying needles. Everyone felt waves of piercing pain in their heads. Chapter 686. After obtaining the Na Chuan cauldron, what level had Lu Ping's alchemy skills reached? Lu Ping did not rely on treasures like the purple crystal royal jelly that could be used to increase the success rate of alchemy. Instead, he simply relied on the magic cauldron, the Na Chuan cauldron, and the high-grade earth-level red spirit flame to start refining the soul return elixir. One day later, Jiang Tianlin Laozu held the only soul return elixir that Lu Ping had refined. He looked at the gray elixir suspiciously and said, "This is the soul return elixir." Lu Ping nodded with certainty and said, "This is the soul return elixir." After the blood demon's soul crystal is crushed into powder, it can support the refining of 2 batches of soul return elixir. It's a pity that I only managed to refine one in my first batch. Jiang Tianlin nodded and said, "I didn't expect the calamity to have reached such a level. Last night, I sneaked into the Yingshan mountain range again and found that the Yinghe, Yingshan, and Daoyu sects had already become ruins. The disciples in the sects were probably all dead or injured. Not many people could escape. Although the strength of these 3 sects was not as strong as the 9 great sects of the North Sea, they were still much stronger than some of the independent forces in the North Sea that had Dharma adepts. However, they were destroyed in the blink of an eye. If the North Sea cultivation world faced a calamity as strong as the one in the Central Plains, I'm afraid that the North Sea cultivation world would be destroyed." Xian Zhuzhenren, who was at the side, saw that Lu Ping had really refined the soul return elixir. He said, "These few days, I have also read many books passed down by the Yingtian sect. There are some records about previous calamities. However, according to these records, it seems that this time's calamity is very different from the past." "Oh." Jiang Tianlin Laozu's expression was solemn as he asked, "Junior sister, what did you discover?" Taoist Master Xian Zhu said, "There are strong and weak great tribulations in the past. Sometimes, only the Azura will wreak havoc, and sometimes, only the devil cultivators will run amok. When the Azura and devil cultivators appear together, the impact of such a great tribulation on the cultivation world will undoubtedly be huge. After each great tribulation, the cultivation world will need to recuperate for hundreds of years to recover." Jiang Tianlin and Lu Ping nodded. They also knew about these things, but looking at Taoist Xian Zhu's expression, it was obvious that there was more. Taoist Master Xian Zhu continued, "The problem lies in the ratio of Azura and demonic cultivators joining hands in this great calamity." "Ratio?" Jiang Tianlin and Lu Ping were confused. "Yes." If Zhenling had prepared enough soul return pills in advance, then Zhenling would certainly preserve more of his strength during this great tribulation. Hearing Lu Ping's words, Jiang Tianlin realized that he had taken it for granted. After listening to Taoist Master Xian Zhu's speculation, Lu Ping did not dare to waste any more of the remaining half of the soul-devouring crystal. The next day, when Lu Ping refined the soul return pill, he used the amethyst royal jelly brewed by the amethyst queen bee, Zilan, who had advanced to the core forging stage. After opening the alchemy furnace, Lu Ping obtained 3 soul return pills. A few days later, Taoist Master Xian Sen, who had taken the soul return pill, finally woke up. Although his face still looked a little pale, the injury to his divine will had actually healed by more than half. His strength had already recovered by 80 to 90%. As long as he carefully recuperated for a few more months, Taoist Master Xian Sen's cultivation would return to its peak. As for Taoist Master Xian Chen and Taoist Master Xian Su, with Lu Ping by their side, their injuries also recovered very quickly. In the days after recovering, Jiang Tianlin, Laozu, and the others were not in a hurry to return to the North Sea. Instead, everyone began to bury their heads in sorting out their harvest from the Yingtian dojo, immersing themselves in the world of cultivation. On this day, a 5-colored brilliance suddenly flashed in the rock cave. The array formation that covered the entire cave suddenly began to collapse under the sweeping 5-colored brilliance. Not good. In the stone room, Lu Ping was cultivating and consolidating his cultivation, which had reached the peak of the 7th stage of the core forging realm due to the refinement of the pure yang soul. Suddenly, he noticed the change in the cave. He hurriedly injected a stream of true essence into the small stone incense burner that controlled the array formation of the entire cave. This caused the collapse of the array formation to slow down. At this moment, in the other stone room that emitted the 5-colored brilliance, Taoist Master Xian Chen hurriedly made a few hand seals to reseal the 5-colored brilliance. Taoist Master Xian Chen walked out of the other cave and found a few items from his storage magic tool. With a wave of his hand, he threw them into the stone wall. Then, he made a few hand seals and shot an arc of light towards the array formation in the stone wall. The array formation that had originally been dissolved by the 5-colored brilliance was restored to its original state. Taoist Master Xian Chen's movements in the stone room caused everyone to come out to check. They saw Taoist Master Xian Chen excitedly walking out of the stone room, holding a 5-colored talisman that was half a foot long in his hand. Hiss, this is... Everyone looked at the talisman in Taoist Master Xian Chen's hand and gasped. Even Jiang Tianlin Laozu didn't notice that Lu Ping's cultivation had increased. Now that Lu Ping had returned to the rock cave and the crisis had been resolved, Lu Ping naturally didn't need to hide his cultivation. Previously, when Taoist Xian Zhu's restriction-breaking talisman appeared suddenly, Lu Ping didn't think too much about it and left his stone room. Only then did Jiang Tianlin Laozu discover the change in his cultivation. With regards to this, Lu Ping had already thought of an answer. He smiled and said, "Disciple found the remains of an ancestor of the Yingtian sect in the central heavenly abode of the Yingtian sect. This ancestor's true essence was compatible with Junior's. Before he died, he condensed his true essence into the remains. Junior was fortunate enough to complete several tests left behind by this ancestor. After seeing the remains of this ancestor, the true essence condensed in the remains flowed into Disciple's body. Although Disciple tried his best to control it, Disciple was still able to reach the peak of the 7th stage of the core forging realm." Looking at the others, he realized that other than Jiang Tianlin Laozu, who seemed to be deep in thought, Xian Su, Taoist Xian Sen, and the others all had looks of envy on their faces. Lu Ping continued, "Actually, regarding the caves that hid the treasures, as well as the damaged axe and battle axe, I also learned about them from the last words of that ancestor." Jiang Tianlin Laozu let out a long sigh and said, "The remains of the condensed true essence, and the flesh does not decay. Presumably, that ancestor was at least a late Dharma adept when he was alive. Only then could he have such remarkable powers. Fortunately, you were still conscious and did not absorb all the true essence that flowed into you. Furthermore, over these thousands of years, the true essence condensed in the remains of that ancestor has also dissipated quite a bit. Otherwise, even if the true essence did not burst your core space, it would have destroyed the foundation of your cultivation, and you would not have been able to progress any further in this life. Jiang Tianlin Laozu paused for a while before saying with some emotion, "You, kid, are really lucky." The tests that the ancestor left behind and the condensed true essence were probably targeted at Dharma adepts. Not only did you pass the tests, but you also did not explode from the true essence within the remains. On the other hand, Sage Xian Sen, Sage Xian Su, and the others looked at Lu Ping as if he was a freak. To be able to pass the tests of Dharma adepts, what level had this kid's abilities reached? This trip to the Yingtian dojo could be said to have been fruitful for everyone. Not only had they obtained treasures and inheritances, but everyone's strength had also improved greatly. The flying swords in his hands also seemed to feel the rich, pure, and endless inner yuan in Lu Ping's body that was far from ordinary people's. As Lu Ping's hands caressed the swords, the spirituality in the pair of flying swords was instantly awakened. The sound of the swords became louder and louder as Lu Ping's inner yuan entered them. Lu Ping could even feel the waves of excitement coming from the flying swords. Beautiful autumn waters swords. Lu Ping had long wanted to obtain a pair of flying swords. 6 of Lu Ping's North Sea 12 techniques, swordplay techniques, could actually be used to perform the pair of flying swords, especially the raging waves hitting the shore, and the great river flowing east, swordplay. When using the pair of flying swords, the power would far exceed the power of a single flying sword. Unfortunately, there were already a few sets of flying swords, and there were even fewer that could adapt to Lu Ping's current strength. Compared to this set of beautiful autumn waters swords, although Lu Ping had the flowing sword of the thin water flowing sword, this was a spirit-nourishing flying sword that had condensed 8 treasures. Unfortunately, this flying sword could not see the light of day in the North Sea training world. Previously in the Yingtian temple, he could only use the golden scale sword that had condensed 6 treasures. This time, with the pair of beautiful autumn waters swords that Jiang Tianlin Laozu had given him, it had solved one of Lu Ping's problems. The golden scale sword had been with Lu Ping for the longest time, but this flying sword was currently limited by its own quality. It was extremely difficult to further improve it, while Lu Ping's cultivation was improving with each passing day. The golden scale sword had gradually been unable to keep up with the progress of Lu Ping's cultivation. After Lu Ping received the cyan rainbow sword from Jiang Tianlin Laozu, he heard Jiang Tianlin Laozu say, "Originally, you obtained the Baiying Tower in the dojo before we entered, so this spirit-nourishing magic weapon is naturally your treasure. But now, I need the Baiying Tower to help me set up the formation in the Yingshu treasure mirror, so I can't return that axe spirit treasure to you for the time being." Lu Ping nodded. In fact, when Jiang Tianlin Laozu handed the beautiful autumn waters swords to Lu Ping had already vaguely guessed Jiang Tianlin Laozu's plan in his heart. Originally, Lu Ping also wanted to use this magic weapon to extort some money from Jiang Tianlin Laozu. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tianlin Laozu did not want him to suffer a loss, and had already prepared a pair of spirit-nourishing flying swords, leaving Lu Ping speechless. However, Lu Ping was still a little worried. "Martial uncle, this disciple of the Baiying Tower has already refined it a little." He looked at the flowing sword in his hand and said doubtfully, "Then this flying sword." This pair of flying swords is one of the few magic treasures that Blue Sea Laozu left behind for the Blue Sea sect. Moreover, this pair of flying swords is indeed the swords that Blue Sea Laozu used to carry. Jiang Tianlin Laozu seemed to know what Lu Ping was thinking. He continued, although Blue Sea Laozu was not enthusiastic about the establishment and development of the Blue Sea sect, it was still the place where his orthodoxy was passed down in name. Before Blue Sea Laozu left this world, he asked someone to bring the thin water flowing sword back to the Blue Sea sect. Lu Ping was puzzled. But what secret is hidden in this pair of flying swords? Jiang Tianlin Laozu nodded and said, Blue Sea Sect Laozu is a rare genius. He became a true spirit as a lone cultivator. In his early years, he dominated the world and left behind 3 cave abodes. The real inheritance of Blue Sea Laozu is in these 3 cave abodes. The thin water flowing sword is the key to open these 3 cave abodes and obtain the real orthodoxy of Blue Sea Laozu. Lu Ping was shocked. The Blue Sea sect lost the thin water flowing sword 4,000 years ago. Before that, this pair of flying swords had been with the Blue Sea sect for nearly 10,000 years. Did the Blue Sea sect not find the cave abode of Blue Sea Laozu from this pair of flying swords? Jiang Tianlin Laozu shook his head and said, in fact, the Blue Sea sect has already found 2, but one was built by Blue Sea sect Laozu when he was at the early Dharma stage and after he became a great cultivator. The 3rd secret cave abode that Blue Sea sect Laozu built after he passed the 3rd thunder trial and became a pure yang Dharma power. It is also the most important cave abode, but it has never been found by the Blue Sea sect. When Lu Ping heard about the pure yang Dharma power, he immediately thought of the pure yang soul that he had obtained in the central palace of Yingtian Dojo. Now that the pure yang soul had entered Lu Ping's core space, it had turned into a ball of pure yang qi that hovered above the Jindan. It was gradually merging with the red clouds that surrounded the Jindan. Then, it was swallowed by the Jindan and gradually refined into the blood essence of Lu Ping. However, Lu Ping immediately came to his senses and asked, now that the Blue Sea sect is urgently looking for this pair of flying swords, have they already found the location of the 3rd cave abode? In fact, as early as 4,000 years ago, after the destruction of Fei Ling sect, the Blue Sea sect had already discovered the clues of the 3rd cave abode left by Vast Sea Laozu. Jiang Tianlin nodded slightly and continued, the secret cave abode of a true spirit cultivator is extremely precious. There is no need to say more about this. In the future, if anyone in the sect is dissatisfied, feel free to find me. Junior brother Xian Su, you go in first and see if you can subdue the spiritual treasure. If you can't, junior sister Xian Ju will go. After that, it will be junior sister Xian Chen and junior brother Xian Senator Marshal nephew Lu, you will be last. Everyone will rely on their own opportunities. It would be best if you can obtain the spiritual treasure's recognition, but if you can't, there is no need to feel regret. Jinren Xian Su laughed and said, in that case, I will go in and try my luck. Even if I can't subdue it, it is rare for a core forging cultivator to be able to see a spiritual treasure with my own eyes. Finished speaking, the mirror suddenly shot a blue light towards Jinren Xian Su. After the light dissipated, Jinren Xian Su had disappeared from the stone room. Everyone looked at the mirror and saw that Jinren Xian Su had landed on the hill that suppressed the wine cauldron. Subduing a spiritual treasure was obviously not something that could be completed in a short period of time. Lu Ping had already heard the meaning behind Jiang Tianlin Laozu's words. This time, the act of subduing the spiritual treasure was actually an opportunity that Jiang Tianlin Laozu deliberately created for Lu Ping in order to make up for taking away the 8 sceneries building from Lu Ping. Moreover, from what Jiang Tianlin Laozu had said about the function of the wine cauldron, this spiritual treasure may be more effective for an alchemist like Lu Ping. Not to mention that Lu Ping was also a grandmaster-level alchemist, so the possibility of subduing the spiritual treasure was higher. After leaving the stone room, Lu Ping slowly walked towards a small stone room that was closest to the entrance of the cave. This was where Du Jialuo's family of 3 lived. When Lu Ping arrived, the Du madam was sitting at the entrance with the little fox in her arms. She looked at Du Jialuo, who was concentrating on cultivating in the stone room. Lu Ping had used a secret technique to personally activate Du Jialuo's bloodline after consuming spiritual herbs that far exceeded what ordinary people would use to activate their bloodlines. In the end, the result did not disappoint Lu Ping. Du Jialua successfully activated his bloodline, and from the fluctuations of spiritual energy caused by the activation of his bloodline, although Du Jialua's aptitude was not supreme, it was still above average. Although Lu Ping's expression was calm, he was rather pleased inside. However, he gave Du Jialua another lecture, telling him to cultivate properly and not slack off at all. When the Du madam saw Lu Ping walk over, she hurriedly stood up and bowed towards Lu Ping. Her expression was rather respectful. Lu Ping nodded slightly and accepted her bow. Lu Ping could tell from the Du madam's expression that her bow was sincere. Lu Ping understood how the Du madam felt. After all, Du Jialua's bloodline was a huge human-shaped pill in the eyes of any cultivator. Although Lu Ping had accepted Du Jialua as a disciple of Zhenling, the Du madam was still cautious. She was afraid that Lu Ping would refine Du Jialua into a human pill in the blink of an eye. However, after Lu Ping helped Du Jialua activate his bloodline, the Du madam was truly relieved. At the same time, she was filled with gratitude towards Lu Ping. This was because she knew that once Du Jialua activated his bloodline, the medicinal effects within his bloodline would quickly settle in his body and bones along with the circulation of spiritual energy in his bloodline. It would be impossible for any alchemist to refine Du Jialua into a human pill. This also proved that Lu Ping truly had no evil intentions and sincerely wanted to nurture Du Jialua. Lu Ping watched as Du Jialua sat cross-legged on the ground and cultivated the Zhenling blood refining realm cultivation method that Lu Ping had taught him. Lu Ping nodded his head slightly. As the blood refining realm disciples could not determine their foundation bloodlines, the 7 bloodlines were mixed together. The cultivation method that they cultivated was mainly to nurture the 7 bloodlines in their bodies. Because this cultivation method was not very advanced, the cultivation method that the blood refining realm disciples cultivated was similar. It did not have much of an impact on the blood refining realm disciples. Whether or not they could build a solid foundation depended on the disciples' attitude and cultivation method. There was a medium-sized spiritual vein in the cave that Laozu had cultivated in the past. The spiritual energy in the cave was quite dense. Lu Ping's divine sense circled around Du Jialua's body. He could feel the faint spiritual energy seeping into Du Jialua's body through his pores. However, it was completely refined by Du Jialua using his cultivation method. Lu Ping felt the speed at which Du Jialua absorbed spiritual energy and the degree of refinement of his cultivation method. He turned to Madame Du and said, "You were also a late-stage core forging realm demonic beast cultivator. What do you think of this kid's cultivation?" Madame Du hesitated for a moment before replying, "I am quite unfamiliar with the human race's cultivation method, so I dare not draw any conclusions. However, judging from the amount of spiritual energy that Luo absorbed during his cultivation, he seems to be doing quite well." Lu Ping nodded and said, "Although what you said is not wrong, you have overlooked the capacity of spiritual energy in his bloodline." Looking at Madame Du's thoughtful expression, Lu Ping said, "Although this kid's absorption speed is very fast and his refining speed is not slow, he once swallowed a strange fruit. Before he opened his bloodline, the medicinal power of the fruit filled his bloodline and was difficult for his body to absorb." Chapter 690. Lu Ping looked left and right on top of the hill. His feet suddenly softened and his whole body fell into the hill. In the middle of the hill, Lu Ping looked at the huge wine cup in front of him that had risen to the height of a person. No wonder Jiang Tianlin Laozu called it a wine cauldron. Ordinary people would not be able to use such a huge wine cup. "Are you the alchemy grandmaster that person talked about?" As Lu Ping watched in surprise, the wine cauldron suddenly lit up. Countless rays of light condensed above the wine cauldron and a 3-foot-tall girl appeared in front of Lu Ping. "This is the spirit of the wine cauldron." The boy looked at Lu Ping's surprised expression and rolled his eyes fiercely, as if he was already used to it. Then the girl rolled her eyes and seemed to think of something more interesting. Her whole body suddenly jumped down. Lu Ping took 2 steps back and got out of the place where the girl fell. Dong! In front of Lu Ping's horrified eyes, there was a strong vibration on the ground where the girl fell. The originally illusory girl's body actually became solid the moment she fell to the ground, and the huge wine cauldron suspended in the air disappeared at this time. The little girl looked at Lu Ping's shocked and speechless expression. It was as if her prank had been fully carried out. She giggled complacently and couldn't stop. Lu Ping quickly restrained his surprised expression, but his tone inevitably showed curiosity. He asked, "You are this wine cauldron? You can actually transform into a human form?" "Of course." The girl proudly raised her chin and said, "This lady is a spiritual treasure." "Spiritual treasure, do you know?" Seeing Lu Ping nod, the girl said, "You have some knowledge, but looking at your surprised expression when you saw this lady, you obviously don't know that spiritual treasures can actually transform into human form?" Lu Ping was a little amused as he watched the little girl trying her best to act like an elder. However, he really didn't know that a spirit treasure could transform into a human form. Seeing the little girl's naivety, he decided to humbly ask her for some advice. Seeing that Lu Ping was listening to her seriously, the girl's little vanity seemed to be greatly satisfied. She could not help but feel happy, and even had a good impression of Lu Ping. "Do you know about the lightning tribulation?" Spiritual treasures also have to go through the lightning tribulation like Dharma adepts. The lightning tribulation is a death tribulation, but it also contains a large amount of life energy, also known as pure yang energy. As long as you go through the lightning tribulation and accept the pure yang energy, the spiritual treasure will become a spiritual treasure, and at the same time, it will have the ability to transform. Seeing the slight surprise on Lu Ping's face, the girl chuckled again. He used more than 1,000 different kinds of spiritual herbs to brew it. Moreover, the spiritual herbs he used were no longer simple 100-year spiritual herbs. Instead, he used a portion of 1,000-year spiritual herbs and a majority of 500-year spiritual herbs. If it were not for the fact that spiritual herbs were rare and it was a waste to use them to brew spirit wine to satisfy his appetite, Lu Ping might even use all of the 1,000-year spiritual herbs to brew the 1,000 spirit wine. This was also because Lu Ping was an alchemist with a rich collection of spiritual herbs. If it was someone else, they would not have the confidence to brew the 1,000 spirit wine. When Ling Long saw the jade pot in Lu Ping's hand, her delicate nose wrinkled slightly. She seemed to have sensed the spiritual qi that floated out from the jade pot. Her eyes suddenly lit up, but she still stretched out her hand indifferently and said, "Give it to this miss to have a taste." Lu Ping smiled faintly. The jade pot in his hand flew out and slowly fell into Ling Long's hand. Ling Long caught the jade pot, put the mouth of the pot into her mouth and sucked fiercely. With a squeak sound, the full pot of 1,000 spirit wine went into the little girl's stomach under Lu Ping's shocked gaze. Ling Long shook the empty jade pot and threw it back to Lu Ping. She pouted and said, "Aya, not enough, not enough." Lu Ping saw that a bright red had slowly climbed up to Ling Long's baby fat little face, but the little girl still stretched out her little hand and said, "Is there a better one? Is there a better one?" Lu Ping put the jade pot away. This jade pot was a magic tool with a storage function. It seemed to be only a foot high, but in fact, it could hold 7 or 8 jars of 1,000 spirit wine. This was all the 1,000 spirit wine that Lu Ping had brewed over the years. But it was so easily drunk by the little girl. Lu Ping also felt a burst of heartache. But these things were insignificant compared to the little girl in front of him. He could see that the little girl was now a little tempted. As long as Lu Ping could take out a better spiritual liquid, maybe Lu Ping would be able to subdue his first spiritual treasure. This was a spiritual treasure. Lu Ping carefully took out a small jade bottle from the storage magic tool. After opening the bottle, Lu Ping looked at the amber-colored liquid inside, then reluctantly handed the jade bottle to the little girl. On the other hand, Ling Long's eyes lit up when Lu Ping took out the jade bottle. When Lu Ping removed the cork, the little girl was already eager to snatch the bottle from him. But Ling Long's eyes lit up when Lu Ping took out the jade bottle. When Lu Ping handed the jade bottle to her, the little girl directly sucked. The amber-colored spiritual liquid turned into a thin line from the jade bottle and flew into the little girl's mouth. Linglong smacked her lips as if she wanted to continue. However, she said, "Not bad. If eaten, it can increase a person's lifespan by 3 years. It's just that it's a little too little." Lu Ping looked at the little girl in front of him with a pained expression. This bottle was the vitality liquid that Lu Ping brewed to refine the minor forging spirit pill. Just this vitality liquid could extend a cultivator's lifespan by 3 years. However, such a precious spiritual liquid in the cultivation world was drunk by the little girl in one gulp. She only received a "not bad" evaluation. The little girl looked at Lu Ping and her eyes turned. She said in a clear voice, "Is there anything better than this? If there is, Linglong will consider disowning you. Linglong is a spiritual treasure. It's very powerful." Lu Ping looked at the cute little girl in front of him. It seemed that she had suddenly incarnated into a little devil. She was tempting Lu Ping to take out more treasures to use as a trump card. With no other choice, Lu Ping took out a jade pot from his interspatial mystic artifact, which was used to water the spirit herbs. A deep and resonant sound immediately filled the entire mountainside. "It smells so good." Linglong sniffed hard and greedily sniffed the fragrance from the jade pot. She could not wait to shout, "Give it to me, give it to me." Lu Ping had no choice but to hand over the jade pot to Linglong. Inside it was the 1,000 fragrant dew that Lu Ping had obtained from the Longhuai ancestor in the fallen secret land. Lu Ping also obtained the secret formula of 1,000 fragrant dew and 100 flowers dew from the Longhuai ancestor. After returning, Lu Ping had also prepared these 2 spiritual liquids according to the secret formula. Perhaps because the quality of the spiritual herbs outside was far inferior to that in the fallen secret land, the quality of the 2 spiritual liquids prepared by Lu Ping was always a little worse. However, this could be completely made up for in quantity, so it was not a big deal. The pot that Lu Ping gave to Linglong was the only remaining 1,000 fragrant dew that he had brought back from the fallen secret land. He had already used up the rest. The little girl also drank it up in one gulp. The little girl smacked her lips and said, "This is the best, but it is not as useful as the last one for Linglong." Linglong wants to drink something like the last one. The last kind of spiritual liquid? That was the vitality dew that could prolong life. This little girl could not be fooled at all. "Linglong, I only have a little bit of vitality dew, but I do have a type of spiritual liquid. Try it and see if you like it." Lu Ping felt like he was coaxing a child. An ancient fragrance slowly wafted from the bamboo cup. "It's only top-grade spirit tea, what's so good about it?" Linglong looked at the bamboo cup in Lu Ping's hand with great reluctance. In her opinion, top-grade spirit tea was like drinking cold water. How could it arouse her interest? If there's spirit tea produced by the spirit demon tea tree, then it can be considered good. Linglong's words almost made Lu Ping spit out a mouthful of blood. Spirit demon tea tree. She dared to think about it, but she would have to see if there were 2 or 3 of them in the entire cultivation world. Lu Ping was at most a 7th layer core forging cultivator. How could he have a spirit demon tea tree? He didn't think that although he didn't have a spirit demon tea tree, he had a spirit demon peach tree that was not the slightest bit weaker than the spirit demon tea tree. Lu Ping casually took out a jade bottle and gulped down the liquid inside. Suddenly, he remembered that he was holding the core forging realm royal jelly brewed by the amethyst queen bee. His heart shuddered and he quickly put away the jade bottle. However, the fragrance of the spirit tea and the unique aroma of the royal jelly had already drifted out of the bottle. Linglong's delicate voice suddenly shouted, "It smells so good, I want to drink it, quickly give it to me." Lu Ping's hand loosened, and the full cup of spirit tea had already been snatched away by Linglong, but Lu Ping didn't have the slightest reaction. Lu Ping had just thought of something, but he took out a full bottle of purple crystal queen bee jelly and poured 1/3 of it out. One had to know that when Lu Ping refined Dharma stage pills, he would only pour 3 to 5 drops into the cauldron in order to increase the success rate. 1/3 of this bottle was enough for Lu Ping to refine 3 batches of Dharma stage pills. The 1,000 spirit wine that could hold 7 or 8 jars was drunk by Ling Long in the wine cauldron. The cup of spirit tea that was only the size of a normal teacup was also drunk by Lu Ping in one gulp. Lu Ping also didn't know how Ling Long, who had transformed into a 3-foot body, could drink so much. Ling Long licked the tea juice from the corner of her mouth and sneakily looked at the magic storage artifact on Lu Ping's finger. She said carefully, "If only I gave the rest of the spirit tea to Ling Long to drink. The spirit tea in that bottle is much better than this cup of spirit tea. Don't even think about it." Lu Ping glared at the little girl fiercely. He was still feeling pained over the 1/3 of the royal jelly he had just poured out. Originally, he only wanted to drip a drop into the cup of spirit tea. How could he have thought of pouring 1/3 of it in at once? Now that he heard this little girl wanting to drink the purple crystal royal jelly like it was water, Lu Ping no longer cared that the other party was just a little girl. He had long forgotten that she was a spirit treasure that he had tried so hard to subdue. He couldn't help but glare at Ling Long angrily. The strange thing was that the little girl, who originally had an arrogant appearance, this time was not dissatisfied with Lu Ping's bad attitude. Instead, she giggled and said, "I have been trapped for a long time. We spirit treasures can't absorb spirit energy on our own. Ling Long is really hungry." In addition to recognizing people as its master, Ling Long can use the master's true essence to nourish Ling Long. The rest of it can only swallow all kinds of spirit liquids that contain spirit energy. This is also Ling Long's innate magical power. Ling Long's innate magical power is very powerful. Lu Ping was a little dizzy from anger. Now that he recovered, he remembered that this little girl was the spirit of the wine cauldron. If he wanted to subdue the wine cauldron, he would need the little girl's consent. So he restrained his temper and snappily asked, "Say it, what other test do you need? If I continue to drink spirit liquids, I don't have any left on me. Don't even think about the purple crystal royal jelly. However, I still have a few kinds of world spirit water and water attribute world treasures. If you want to drink them, I can give you some." Ling Long wrinkled her cute nose and said, "World spirit water, who wants to drink those things?" There is an aura that Ling Long doesn't like. Those world treasures are also not good, Ling Long doesn't like them. Lu Ping breathed a sigh of relief. This was strange. World spirit treasures were the most precious treasures in this world, but this little girl didn't like them. Instead, she liked concocted or collected spirit liquids. What was the reason for this? Thinking about what Ling Long said about world spirit treasures having an aura that she didn't like, Lu Ping's heart moved. Could it be because of the spirituality of world spirit treasures? To put it bluntly, after a magic treasure becomes a spiritual treasure, it would have its own spirituality. However, this spirituality had just appeared, so it was still immature. Moreover, it was nurtured by the cultivator's own true essence. Because of this, its spirituality was special and compatible with the cultivator who nurtured it. When the magic treasure continued to grow, it would go through the spirit nurturing stage and continuously nurture its spirituality. After passing through the test of thunder tribulations, it would obtain pure yang energy, which was also the energy of life. Then, a spirit like Ling Long would be born. The spirituality of these spirit treasures was pure, but most of the world's spirit treasures' spirituality did not match. Even though the world's spirit water also contained a large amount of spiritual energy, Ling Long didn't like the spirituality of the evil spirit water. This made Ling Long instinctively feel that swallowing the world's spirit water would destroy the purity of her spirituality. Therefore, most of the world's spirit water, in Ling Long's eyes, appeared to be dirty. Was it really dirty? Lu Ping smiled in his heart. It probably depended on what kind of world spirit water it was, right? A drop of spirit liquid was spinning in Lu Ping's palm. It immediately attracted Linglong's gaze. Her clear eyes suddenly flashed with an uncertain light. What kind of spirit liquid is this? Linglong really wants to drink it. Is there only one drop? This time, Lu Ping was more careful. When the little girl looked at him, he quickly closed his palm. The little girl's body just flashed for a moment, but she helplessly returned to her original position. She could only look at Lu Ping pitifully. This drop of spirit liquid is world spirit water. Lu Ping said with bad intentions, you said it yourself. You don't like to drink world spirit water. The little girl's face was full of confusion. Her pearl-like white teeth gently bit her finger. Lu Ping could even see crystal-clear saliva sliding down her finger. I was wrong. Linglong wants to drink that drop of spirit liquid. Linglong can feel that this spirit liquid is very useful to Linglong. Can you give that drop of spirit liquid to Linglong? Lu Ping smiled in his heart as if his plot had succeeded. He said with surprise, you have to look carefully. This is a drop of world spirit water. Are you sure you want this drop of spirit liquid? Will it have a bad effect on you? Wonder do. Lu Ping did not believe that this kind of world spirit water, which contained infinite vitality, would be rejected by a spirit treasure like Linglong. The Wonder Dew contained a spirituality that surpassed other ordinary world spirit water. However, the spirituality of the Wonder Dew was mainly the power of vitality. Just now, Lu Ping had seen the little girl swallow several spirit liquids. The little girl liked spirit liquids with rich spiritual energy. However, she liked spirit liquids like Vitality Dew and 100-Flower Jade Dew the most. They contained vitality and could prolong a cultivator's life. However, which of these things could compare to the Wonder Dew? As long as you give this drop of spirit liquid to Linglong, Linglong will recognize you as her master. Good, then it's a deal. Lu Ping was secretly delighted. He had been waiting for this little girl to say this. Chapter 692. Spiritual treasures had their own spirits and could choose their own masters. They could also use their own killing power, but they were unable to absorb spiritual energy. Therefore, the spiritual energy in an ownerless spiritual treasure would decrease with each use. Inside Lu Ping's core space, under Lu Ping's distressed eyes, Linglong, who had swallowed a drop of myriad Wonder Jade Dew, giggled and transformed back into her original form. Then, she shrank into a palm-sized wine cup and entered Lu Ping's core space in a flash. Lu Ping's bloodline and core space were filled with thick Zhen Yuan. The moment the Linglong wine cauldron entered his core space, it was like a whirlpool suddenly appeared in the middle of the sea. Lu Ping felt 2/3 of his Zhen Yuan collapse and was completely swallowed by the Linglong wine cauldron. As for Lu Ping, he was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. In fact, Linglong wine cauldron was even more surprised. Although she could feel that Lu Ping's Zhen Yuan was rich, in her impression, with Lu Ping's cultivation, even if she took the initiative to recognize him as her master and swallowed a lot of spirit liquid to replenish her Zhen Yuan, it would still be impossible for Lu Ping to fill and refine all the Zhen Yuan she needed in 3 to 5 days. However, she didn't know that Lu Ping had refined 2 portions of Heaven Step Dark Heavy Water when he advanced to the middle core forging stage, and 2 portions of Heaven Step Myriad Wonder Jade Dew when he advanced to the late core forging stage. Among cultivators of the same level, his Zhen Yuan could only be described as heaven-defying. Otherwise, how could Lu Ping walk across the stone bridge in the central palace and obtain the inheritance of Ying Tian's sect's soaring sky Laozu as well as the pure Yang soul? The Linglong wine cauldron chose its own master, and Lu Ping had a strong Zhen Yuan that ordinary people could not hope to achieve. Therefore, Lu Ping was able to completely refine this spiritual treasure in an instant. However, after the Linglong wine cauldron was refined by Lu Ping, she found that her surprise was obviously not over. Ah! A sharp scream rang out in Lu Ping's heart space, causing Lu Ping to frown. Then, he heard Linglong's scream continue, pure yang qi, so much pure yang qi, so much pure yang qi. Master, if you had told me earlier that you actually had so much pure yang qi, Linglong would have recognized you as her master long ago. Why would she need to drink so much wonder dew? If not for the fact that Linglong's wine cauldron had already been refined by him, Lu Ping's impulse to beat someone up would have been even stronger. What did he mean by, apart from the 10,000 wonder dew, it's nothing special? The thing that Lu Ping gave Linglong's wine cauldron to drink was the least valuable 1,000 spirit wine. In the cultivation world, an ordinary jade pot would be worth hundreds of spirit stones. Not only that, after Linglong entered the core space, she was quickly attacked twice in a row. There were two things that really frightened Linglong. The first was when Linglong enlarged her body and was ready to compete with Lu Ping's life gentian formation for the pure yang qi, a purple gourd, which was at the same distance as several magic treasures of the spirit cultivation level, suddenly spat a drop of spiritual liquid towards Linglong. When Linglong entered Lu Ping's core space, she was so overbearing to compete for the pure yang qi, so she could naturally feel the faint resistance from these magic treasures of the spirit cultivation level. After seeing the gourd spit out a drop of spiritual liquid, she was secretly amused. One of her innate talents was to swallow all kinds of spiritual liquid, but this gourd actually spat at her. Just as she was preparing to take this opportunity to give Lu Ping's magic treasures a show of strength, Linglong suddenly discovered that this drop of spiritual liquid was actually condensed from countless lightning bolts. How could Linglong, who had narrowly escaped death under the Thunder Tribulation, not be able to see that this drop of spiritual liquid was actually the Thunder Tribulation water, a high-grade heaven stage spiritual treasure? At that moment, Linglong was so scared that she almost burst into tears. She immediately shrunk her body, and looked at the purple gourd triumphantly swallowing the drop of Thunder Tribulation water with an incredulous look in her eyes. Only then did Linglong remember a legend circulating among spirit treasures. Could this gourd be the prototype of that legendary supreme spirit treasure? In an instant, Linglong suddenly found that her original nobility suddenly paled in comparison to this gourd. The appearance of the Seven Thunder Treasures gourd made Linglong restrain her sense of superiority as a spirit treasure, but Linglong immediately discovered something that made her even more frightened. The seven strange four-legged serpents hovering over Lu Ping made Linglong feel a sense of fear from the bottom of her heart. If the Seven Thunder Treasures gourd made Linglong feel fear because of her status, then the seven strange serpents made Linglong feel a sense of natural reverence, as if she was born to fear them. This feeling was even worse than the Seven Thunder Treasures gourd. Linglong looked at the sealed pure yang energy first being swallowed by the seven strange serpents, then Lu Ping's natal gentian formation, and then the Seven Thunder Treasures gourd. As a spirit treasure, Linglong was only ranked 4th. In the rocky cave, Lu Ping naturally did not care about Linglong's ranking in the core space. He walked straight towards the House of Gold. After receiving the inheritance of the Longhuai ancestor, and nourished by the living soil, and other natural treasures, the spirit demon peach tree's cultivation had finally begun to grow. Even though the Shura and Xiao-mo sects were bloodthirsty and devoured souls, the bloodline of mortals did not contain spiritual qi and could only nurture true essence. They could only observe their surroundings through their 5 senses and not through the divine sense and will of cultivators. Let's not talk about how Guoxianshan and Laozu had taken advantage of the vacuum in the Yingshan mountain range after the Shura's rampage to expand the territory of the newly established Yingshan Immortal Academy. They searched for and took over the various cultivation resource sites that the Yinghe, Yingshan, and Dao Space sects had opened up in the Yingshan mountain range for their own use. After Lu Ping welcomed Guotianshan and Laozu, he once again became a hands-off shopkeeper. Guotianshan and Laozu presided over the Yingshan Immortal Academy and had many things to do. Other than occasionally coming out to refine a few cauldrons of pills, Lu Ping did not care about anything else. After greeting Guotianshan and Laozu, he returned to his cave dwelling and went into seclusion. For some reason, Guo Tianshan and Lao Tzu did not care about Lu Ping's actions. Even though the other core forging cultivators felt indignant, when they thought about it, the Yingshan Immortal Academy was not perfect in all aspects. The pills they needed for their cultivation still fell on Lu Ping. When they thought about Lu Ping's identity as an alchemy grandmaster, they all calmed down. He was special because he had the qualifications. They had no choice but to accept it. After Lu Ping went into seclusion, the Yingshan Immortal Academy no longer had any alchemy grandmaster. Even though Lu Ping had refined a batch of pills before he went into seclusion, no one knew how long Lu Ping would stay in seclusion. Guo Tianshan and Lao Tzu could only ask for help from the sect. A few days later, Jinling's alchemy grandmaster, Taoist Xian Fang, and 3 other alchemy grandmasters brought a batch of spiritual herbs of various ages that Jinling had sent to Yingshan Immortal Academy through the teleportation array. They took over the responsibility of managing the Yingshan Immortal Academy's pill room from Lu Ping. One of the blood condensation realm alchemy grandmaster who came with Taoist Xian Fang was Tian Yu, the one who held Lu Ping's alchemy master token. Tian Yu was now one of the best alchemy grandmasters among the 4th generation of Jinling's disciples. He was favored by the seniors in the Pill Pavilion, especially the famous alchemy grandmaster, Taoist Xian Fang, who gave him many pointers. The 4th generation disciples in the Pill Pavilion were envious of Tian Yu. They all believed that Tian Yu would definitely become Taoist Xian Fang's disciple after he advanced to the mid-blood condensation realm. However, after a few years, Tian Yu's cultivation had already reached the 5th layer of the blood condensation realm. Other than Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu, the number of core forging and blood condensation cultivators they had was far behind the Mountain Universe sect. Helpless, Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu sent people back to Jinling to seek help. On the other hand, he had no choice but to reduce the expansion of the Yingshan Immortal Academy. He only kept the area within a radius of 1,000 miles as the foundation of the Yingshan Immortal Academy's influence. Although Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu sent a request for help back to Jinling, Jinling only sent 5 cultivators. 3 of them were core forging cultivators, 1 each at the late, mid, and early stages. The remaining 2 were 4th generation disciples at the late blood condensation stage. The leader of the 5 was Jiang Tianlin, Lao Tzu's eldest disciple, enlightened Master Xiantian, who had already advanced to the late core forging stage. Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu found out from enlightened Master Xiantian that although Jinling's position in the North Sea was still stable, the situation had changed. Although Jinling could still cope with the situation, it was not enough for them to send extra forces to support the Yingshan Immortal Academy in the Middle Lands. After all, although establishing a base in the Middle Lands was important, it was not an urgent matter. With Jinling's strength, it was not enough to support the rapid rise of the Yingshan Immortal Academy. In Jinling's plan, the Yingshan Immortal Academy was just to establish an inconspicuous faction to deceive people so that it would be easier for Jinling to do things in the Middle Lands in the future. Now, they had to keep a low profile. Even if they had to swallow their anger, they had to continue pretending. However, the members of Jinling Lao Tzu did not expect that Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu would take advantage of the lack of influence in the Yingshan Immortal Academy to plunder a lot of cultivation resources from the 3 sects of Yingshan Immortal Academy. This allowed the academy to develop so quickly that it incurred the hatred of the Mountain Universe sect. Enlightened Master Xiantian came to the Yingshan Immortal Academy not only to receive reinforcements from Jinling, but also to inform Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu of the sect's strategy of concealing their strength and biding their time. Thus, even though the Yingshan Immortal Academy's strength had increased in the following years, they avoided conflicts with the Mountain Universe sect as much as possible and never took the initiative to provoke them. When Lu Ping came out of seclusion to visit Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu, he coincidentally ran into enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan and enlightened Master Xiantian discussing matters in Guo Tianshan Lao Tzu's cave residence. Enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan told Lu Ping the general situation of the Yingshan Immortal Academy's development in the past 10 years. Lu Qiner was the little girl who had transformed from the spirit demon peach tree 10 years ago. In these 10 years, the little girl had been using the grass and trees in the back mountain of Yingshan Immortal Academy to monitor this region. In this region, without the little girl's permission, very few people could enter the back mountain and disturb Lu Ping's cultivation. Moreover, even if an expert tried to sneak in, it would be very difficult to avoid the little girl's eyes and ears. The little girl's talent was not something Samling, Lu Qiner, and the others could compare to. Even Lu Ping was rather amazed when he learned of this. She could control flowers and trees, and with her eyes and ears, even Lu Ping felt that it would be very difficult to avoid the little girl's detection within a certain range. The little girl nodded when she heard Lu Qiner's words. A cheerful tune sounded from her mouth, like the sound of a breeze brushing past the grass and trees. The path that had been covered by the grass reappeared in front of Du Jialuo's eyes. Moreover, Du Jialuo discovered that this path led in a different direction. Du Jialuo turned around to thank the little girl in front of him, and then walked towards the back mountain along the path that had just appeared. Lu Qiner's wings flapped, and her figure immediately disappeared into the clouds. At this time, Du Jialuo already believed a rumor that had been circulating in Immortal Academy. It was said that Immortal Academy's medicine-gathering disciples would often encounter a ghostly wall after accidentally entering Immortal Academy's back mountain's forbidden area. They would be trapped inside for several days, and only when they were on their last breaths were they rescued by Immortal Academy's true masters. As time passed, Immortal Academy's disciples became more and more respectful towards the back mountain's forbidden area. No one else entered the back mountain because of medicine gathering. Originally, Immortal Academy's disciples all thought that Immortal Academy's true masters were purposely punishing the disciples who entered the back mountain, but now, it seemed like it wasn't Immortal Academy's true masters who took action at all. It was most likely this little girl who had trapped them inside. Du Jialuo then thought back to the years before Immortal Academy was established. At that time, Immortal Academy's protective formation hadn't been completely established, and experts would often sneak into Immortal Academy to plot against them. However, each time they tried to sneak in, they would be discovered, and then attacked by Immortal Academy's experts. Now, it seemed like this Peach Blossom Fairy's contribution as well. At the bottom of the cliff at the back of the mountain, waves of the surging Ying River were constantly crashing against the cliffs on both sides of the river, making chi-chi sounds. In the sky above the cliff, a black shadow gradually grew bigger. When it got closer, one would find out that it was a huge blue phoenix. The green one released a clear cry, and then its giant body glided along the surface of Abundant River. A figure leapt off the green one's back, jumping into Abundant River. Du Jialuo formed a water-repelling art, diving 7 or 8 zhang into the river along the cliff. He could vaguely see an enormous rock cave. Du Jialuo hurriedly walked into the cave. When he passed through the cave and emerged from the water surface, he saw a familiar figure currently looking at him with a smile. Du Jialuo's face lit up, and he bowed respectfully, saying, "Martial Uncle de Bao, long time no see. You've gotten fatter and fatter. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.